Father's Day, my friend got a new four-wheeler.
He was driving underage. He was, driving it completely illegally.
So we're going like down the road and having lots of fun. We're like hitting jumps. There's just like this big like pothole in the road that sucked in the tire. Went through the bush for like 3 seconds.
When they said for the whole family to go in, I knew something was wrong because I knew about procedure. David went in and Dawn went in and I went in and I saw Daniel in a collar full of blood. They had to cut his clothes off. And I remember seeing his neck chain that I gave him for Christmas. He was awake and he was hysterical, crying, Mommy, Mommy. Daniel does not call me Mommy unless it's absolutely severe. I haven't heard him call me that since he was really, really young.
He broke his shoulder and he had broken something in his neck. No word of any kind of vertebrae, or there's vertebrae damage, but no spinal cord damage at this point. So I was really upset about that, like, oh my God, he broke his neck. And then the third phone call was, they're doing an MRI, there's spinal cord damage. And in between that, I had to call my dad, who I haven't talked to in 3 years, and I had to tell my dad, Daniel's been in this accident, and this is what they've said so far.
And I thought, God, if you're going to do this, propose his soul. Like, take care of him. Don't let him suffer, because I don't want to see Daniel suffer, because if this is the worst that's going to happen, then just let him die in peace. I don't want him to suffer. And I never thought I'd ever say that about one of my kids.
I just remember waking up on the ground. It felt like a grenade went off in my face. Like my ears were ringing, I couldn't see. So I started moving my head, and the rest of my body wasn't moving, so I felt like shit.
He was rushed up to the ER, and they did surgery on him after they found out that he had more than one fracture to his vertebrae.
I broke his bones, called C5, C4, C6, C7, and I completely shattered one.
And they ended up having a 9-hour operation for him. He was completely paralyzed from the throat down. He could breathe on his own, but that's about it.
I couldn't even, I found it hard to move my eyes because I couldn't move anything. Then I started progressing, and then I started moving my fingers. And I remember when I was at Sick Kids, I was laying in bed, I was looking at my fingers, and I moved my pinky just a little bit. I was like, let's move my fingers! And I started screaming, I don't know.
What happens with a spinal cord injury is usually there's a disruption somewhere of the bony architecture. So usually this part becomes fractured, and then there's pressure from the fracture on the spinal cord, and the spinal cord is such a fragile part of our anatomy that it becomes partially or completely severed, and then everything below that is affected.
He's a very athletic kid, and it's a very huge part of his life. In the sense of what he wants to do in the future. All his future goals all related to, he wanted to be in the Army and stuff like that, which is obviously something you can't do in a wheelchair.
I would go in the Army even if my legs were chopped off. I wouldn't give a shit. That's my passion. That's what I do, so. What keeps me happy? The guns and the combat and the uniforms and all that cool stuff. Get to travel the world, shoot at foreign people. That's everybody's dream, shoot at foreign people. Ouch.
When there's damage to the spinal cord, as I said, it affects your motor, it affects also your sensory, your sense of hot and cold. And often we will use a little pinprick or the dull end of an instrument to see if the person can feel it. And as the spinal cord is recovering from the spinal cord injury, we try to map areas on the body to see if, as the recovery improves, is the area getting smaller where there's a loss of sensation.
breath smells like egg salad. Your breath smells like egg salad. My whole left side, I couldn't move it. My whole right side was completely paralyzed.
I try to picture my brother in the future as, I don't think he's ever going to be the same, obviously. I think he's still probably going to need to sit in a wheelchair or to sit a lot, just because it'll be hard for him.
At this point in time, I don't know what the future presents. So if it's a plateau, then I don't want to take his hope away. I know that if you crush somebody's hope, they don't want to live anymore.
I think it's important not to tell him that he's probably going to have a wheelchair for the rest of his life. Even if he'll be able to walk again, he's always going to have a wheelchair.
And I want to see him the way I used to see him. And I want him to go back to that. I miss that. Now, 4.5 months later, I don't think it's ever going to go back to the way it's going to be.
Well, they all want to walk again. Of course they do. We all, that's obviously want to regain the function as much as possible. And, I mean, it's physician dependent, right? Some physicians will flat out tell them right away, you will never walk again.
Once I'm able to get out of here and walk normally, I'm going right to jogging, I'm going right to sprinting, so I'm definitely going to be able to be as good as I was.
So he has an issue of non-compliance.
I can take this.
No, you can't.
Go away.
Daniel, this is not funny.
Come on, exercise.
And if you fall, your fracture hasn't set yet.
It's okay.
It's okay. You're going to be completely paralyzed. That's okay.
He still doesn't care about what people think of him and stuff like that. He still says really rude things, but deep down inside, I know he cares now. He cares. He's more humble.
Okay. You know bad. He's gonna smack your fucking kid in the face. Bad. How bad?
He does a lot of things that he shouldn't do, which are, not advised by his physiotherapist that he should be doing. Because of the fracture in his neck not having been set yet, and because of the lack of trunk control and balance that he has, he is incapable of walking or standing, and yet he's pushing himself because he has that drive to walk, he has that drive to stand up.
I don't think they have much hope for me. They're like, oh, I don't think he's gonna walk and this and that. Not being able to walk, well, I probably wouldn't want to be alive right now, just be laying in bed for the rest of your life. But, if you're walking, you have a chance. You're able to, go out there and, get back to normal, so. Probably the biggest reason why I'm so tired is because I didn't get any sleep last night.
Why didn't you get any sleep?
The nightmares. I had nightmares about everything that's going on, like crash. It's just driving a four-wheeler, having fun, and then I just lose control, and I'm paralyzed. I can't do anything about it, and I smashed into the tree. I started thinking about how I could have avoided it and how I screwed myself up. So it sucks.
I think he realizes that it was his fault, definitely. And maybe at that age, kids feel a little bit invincible, like nothing can hurt them.
And I don't think that, even though medical technology and the knowledge that the physicians have, I think is phenomenal, I still believe in miracles, and I think maybe he can do it.
I will walk again, definitely. Nothing will stop me. Nothing.